No, 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 no. I am ready whenever you are.
Yeah, but I'm ready whenever you are.
Right, but see, whenever you're ready,
No,
that's when I'm also ready.
but I'm ready before. Uh, I think we're on.
Oh, guys, hey,
Oh,
hey, hey.
hey.
How's it going? I guess we're live. I am your host, Dash V, and with me and hopefully ready is
I was born ready, Chris, before you,
all right.
even though I'm younger. And it is me, Kyle. Hello, everyone. So it looks like I think tonight it'll just be the two of us. So we have a very intimate episode for everyone.
Oh yeah, very intimate and very lovely episode of the Retro Reload. Yeah, don't worry, we're few in number, but we're mighty in spirit. So we're still gonna be checking out the chats. So if you are in there, we are definitely gonna be in there with you, and we will be discussing today actually a couple of things. And one of the things I think my take on it might actually surprise people. So Kyle, I'm sure that you've already read by now and you've heard about Nintendo, announcing that in 2019 they're going to be shutting down the Wii shop there, and you won't be able to download anything at that point. They're going to cut off purchases, I think, several months before that, and then months later they're going to actually cut off. You won't even be able to download stuff that you'd previously purchased. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's one of those things. I mean, I guess the basic thing is that when it comes to digital download games, that it kind of sucks when you're not going to have that option to get stuff digitally like that. The biggest thing I'm thinking about, there was a game you mentioned on the podcast before, and I think it was like for the original Wii, maybe. But it was one of those, and it was one of those download only games. So, unless they make that available later somehow, that's one of those games that unless you have it, it's kind of going to be lost after that in a certain sense.
Absolutely.
That always sucks.
Yeah, that was a LIT. It was a platform exclusive. Some people, the eagle-eyed, might tell me like, hey, in fact, I don't remember who it was. Somebody after the show pointed out, hey, Dash V, you're not exactly correct. Like, LIT is also available on the mobile platform, and indeed it is. And I picked it up. So it's inspired by the game that came out for the Wii, but it is not the same game. The game on the Wii is same general storyline, same characters, same in the spirit of you're solving puzzles to get from room to room to save your girlfriend, but not at all the same in terms of the gameplay is totally different. The graphics are completely different. The Wii is quite a few steps up from the mobile version of the game, and so there was a lot of some might say gimmicks. I would say interesting characteristics of the Wii version. One of the things that I thought was particularly effective was remember the crappy speaker that the Wii remotes have. So LIT actually used it. Like when you'd enter different rooms, you could hear the phone ringing. And when you'd get to where the phone was, you actually had to raise the Wii remote to your ear, and through that crappy, crackly speaker, it was like listening like an old rotary phone, like listening to, and you would hear the girlfriend that you're trying to find saying like, "Where are you?" Right? Like, you need to help me. It's so cold here, and things like that. And it was very chilling, actually, very dark. Like you get to the phone.
Creepy.
Yeah, it was very, very creepy. And there was really great, organ, music and stuff like that, kind of like driving, the tempo of things. The play on light and dark, felt a little bit more palpable in the Wii version. So I'm not sure if it's still on the store. I haven't checked it in like the last 2 years, but if it's still there, still listed, folks, get it, but understand that I guess this would be my message to people right now. So two things. Anybody expecting like a Dash V rant about this, you're not going to get one. I've been telling you guys since the dawn of digital today is dust tomorrow. I've been saying that repeatedly, and everyone's been making fun of me, for like stockpiling like old games and everything. But my old games is still going to work. Right? So, who's laughing now? So, no, I think Nintendo's well within their rights to say, hey, look, we had a good run, but, the servers are pretty much sitting here idle and burning cash. They can't both run digital download servers for you that, you only want to use once every year and giving you enough SNES minis and giving you enough Nintendo Switches. And so, like, the retro gamer in me sheds a tear, but says, hey, look, they're giving you like a year and a half heads up. Download the digital copies that you have of things now and back them up to multiple SD cards, right? And have those backups, handy, and then just take as good a care of your system as you can. Those purchases are not, unfortunately, going to transfer to other Wii devices. So you are kind of screwed. Even if you download and back them up, if your existing Wii dies, you're pretty much done. You lost all the digital stuff plus and to that I say, like, for lit, I think the game's like $4 or $5. Like, it's worth it to at least experience the game once and say, hey, I remember this. But I think that for other stuff where you paid like full retail price for a game, I done told you not to do that. So don't blame Nintendo. I mean, if you want to, tell Nintendo that you're mad, that you're upset. But I think you're going to be in the minority. Most folks have already moved on. Most folks really didn't care. They bought it digital, they played it, they had their fun, and they didn't care. It's only us collectors that are really, shedding tears. So I'm hearing a bit of an echo, Kyle. Do you? Is there anything we can do?
I'm not hearing like an echo from you. It's like a full sound, but I don't hear an echo on my side.
I hear me echoing through with just like a slight delay. Folks in the chat, Lister's Mate, can you tell us, are you getting an echo on me in the chat? We'll see what they say there. But yeah, so I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Expect to see, guys, this is just a first shoe of many to drop. I mean, expect to see similar happen with, the PlayStation, with the PSP. I mean, you're going to see these things happen. The way Sony's going to make up for it is, stuff's going to disappear from PlayStation 3, and stuff is going to disappear from PSP and Vita if it hasn't already. And maybe you'll see that stuff resurface, on PS4 through PlayStation Now or something like that. But the lifespan of your digital games is going to be kind of finite. Oddly enough, the company that's really seeming to give you the greatest longevity of your games right now is Microsoft. They just this week announced Ninja Gaiden Black from the Xbox One. Ninja Gaiden Black from the Xbox One joins the backward compatibility list, along with other games like Knights of the Old Republic, and a handful of others. There was something like 12 or 16 games that they just spontaneously announced are from the Xbox original back catalog that now work. And a little bit later in the show, I'll give you some of my wish list items for what I hope makes it. Do you have any wish list items, Kyle, that you hope makes the backward compatibility list?
Definitely. Time Splitters 2 would be my big one, just because it would be just such a good game to be able to have, not have to break out an old Xbox or GameCube or whatever to play it. I'd like to play it again. So
so now something that's going to psych you out. Are you familiar with some of the particulars of the original Xbox backward compatibility?
Not really, because I had a 360, but I never really used it for even original stuff, just because there wasn't a whole lot of support for the ones I wanted to use, and also I kind of screwed up my games. So,
what I think is kind of amazing, right? And again, right, if you didn't listen to me about the digital purchases, folks, like, maybe listen to me on this one and redeem yourself. I think what's really interesting is that not just the bringing back of these old games, but the way that Microsoft's done it. I was reading into it a little bit, and on the Xbox One and the Xbox One S, you can play Ninja Gaiden Black. It works the way the 360 backward compatibility works. You put your disc in there, it'll download a digital copy of the game, and the digital copy of the game can be played as long as you have the disc in there. So it doesn't cost you anything. Detects it pretty seamlessly. The game was about 6 gig to download. Now, what's really, really cool, though, is on the Xbox One and the Xbox One S, this actually gets up-converted to 1080p 60 frames per second. I am not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. On the Xbox One X, it gets up-converted to 2K 60 frames per second.
Wow.
Now, you might not think that it would hold up all that well, but folks, in general, most Xbox original games were mastered at, like this one was mastered at 480p. Some of them were actually mastered at 720p. These games actually hold up really well on modern TVs, especially this game was provided in a 16:9 anamorphic widescreen ratio. So you can actually play it on your, HD TV, 4K or 1080p, and you don't have any black bars. It fills the entire screen. Yes, there doesn't have like dynamic lighting, doesn't have fancy shaders, etc. But the textures are still pretty respectable, and the 3D geometry, the way they do the up conversion, they add additional tessellation. So it's not just like, it smooths out the jaggies and you get some kind of, rounded edges where there weren't some before. So does it look current gen? No. Does it look 360 gen? No. But does it look way better than it ever looked on the original Xbox with way more stable frame rates? Hell to the yes. So if you haven't checked out Ninja Gaiden Black, and you can't find a copy because this has gotten hella expensive, you can actually get yourself a copy for $9 off the Microsoft Store. So, and it has the same upscaling properties as the disc. But I think that's really cool. Not just that. As I was reading more, I learned that this is just one of a handful of games. Knights of the Old Republic is another one where for select games, 360 and Xbox Originals, they're going to be upgrading them to 1080p. Or 2K on the Xbox One X. That's friggin' amazing. So I mean, added frame rates and better performance, who doesn't like that? But then actually do some stuff to kind of smooth out some of the graphical wrinkles to at least make it not it's not going to be like playing a current gen game, but it's not going to be like a painful why am I doing this type experience either.
Right. Well, and I just pulled up the list because I was curious what else was on there. It looks like Black will be on there, which is a FPS game. So if you haven't played that one, that would always be a good one to pick up. I think you can get it pretty cheap. I'm not sure. Blood Rain 2, Crimson Skies is on there. Dead to Rights, Fusion Frenzy, Grabbed by the Ghoulies, Kings of Fighters, like you said, Ninja Gaiden Black. Prince of Persia, the first one will be on there. Psychonauts, which is another good one, apparently. Red Faction 2, Sid Meier's Pirates, and like you said, KOTOR. So some pretty nice little games. If you have any of those, a good reason to bust them out and try them again. So,
and there's going to be a new bundle announced in spring of 2018. So Microsoft is coming out swinging. What I thought was really interesting about this bundle of backward compatibility goodness that they kind of unloaded is that there's kind of something for everybody in there. You got Fusion Frenzy, which is kind of like a mini game, multiplayer couch co-op type experience. You've got Black, which is like a first-person game, as you mentioned. You got Ninja Gaiden, which is kind of like if you enjoy Nintendo hard, soul-crushingly difficult, games, this is one of them. If you're a Star Wars fan, right, Knights of the Old Republic. If you're a strategy game fan, right, Sid Meier's, game can't beat that. So I don't really feel like Microsoft did this at all. I really feel like they kind of, did more than give it the old college try. Like they could have just brought back a whole bunch of Xbox original Halo games and called it a day, right? But they didn't. Like they actually went through the back catalog and actually picked a good smattering of things. And so I think that's a heck of a value. And those are a lot of games that some folks are likely to have. So
yeah.
pretty good shot at breathing some new life into those old games. And then bonus, when I read about them, I'm like, huh, no kidding, it's going to be 60 FPS. And I've been noticing, although I haven't gone back and loaded them up, I've been noticing a lot of games on my Xbox Dash getting updates that you wouldn't expect to get updates, right? Like a year after it got released, I would not expect to see Alan Wake and Alan Wake's American Nightmare getting updates. What are those updates? I'm kind of curious if maybe those updates weren't, up conversion to these higher frame rates and higher resolutions, improvements in the emulation. Of course, you don't get a change log, so you can't see, but I'm going to be loading up those games in the near future just to kind of kick the tires and see like what's there. Another thing that I'm looking at, which really has me stoked for the Xbox One X, is I've been going through different games like the Evil Within and Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and I've been noticing that even a lot of these games, hey, Amadeus, he says greetings. It's really great to see him, Amadeus484. It's been a while, so welcome into the chat. We've missed you, my friend. Have you heard about the Nintendo shop closing down in 2019? What are your thoughts? Share them with us in the chat, and we'll throw that out there. But back to the Microsoft topic, I really feel like they're doing it solid. Like a lot of these games, so Mirror's Edge got really kind of slammed when it first came out, Mirror's Edge Catalyst on the Xbox One, because it ran at like some 720p thing, and even then it ran like garbage and all this other stuff. Well, later they ended up introducing dynamic resolution, which a lot of people said like, well, that's kind of pointless. Like, why even bother with dynamic resolution up to 1080p when you're running like crap at 720p? Well, I don't think we're going to see an Xbox One X enhanced version of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. But that said, the Xbox One X certainly is going to have enough horsepower to run that maxed out at maximum frame rate at 1080p. So what's really cool for me is I have a copy of Mirror's Edge Catalyst for the Xbox One that I haven't played yet. It's in my back catalog.
Ah, okay.
I'm going to be able to get like a really legit, like, toe-to-toe, if not better than the PlayStation 4 experience just by playing it on the new thing. Evil Within, another game that was released with dynamic resolution, and a lot of people complained because they said like, okay, so not only does it, because of so many monsters on the screen and blah blah blah, not only does the performance slow to a crawl, but the performance slows to a crawl and the resolution drops, so it looks like garbage as it fails to perform. That game, the Evil Within, they had a series of patches that kind of improved the performance and that kind of thing. And that helped out, for the most part. But a lot of people still complained, a lot about the Xbox One version versus now. And they claimed that both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One version were both kind of clunky, and that if you wanted the least clunky, get it on PC, but you better have a massively powerful PC. What's really cool is I'm looking forward to having it on the Xbox One X. Again, the original first game, Evil Within, is not going to be getting an Xbox One X upgrade per se, but I'm 100% confident that it's going to max out the frame rate and max out at 1080p resolution on the One X. So I'm going to have a better experience than the original Xbox gamers and the original PlayStation gamers, and even some of the PC gamers on the lower end hardware had. And I'm not saying that as a brag, but I'm saying it's really cool to see. I mean, Microsoft has really kind of won me over this generation. In VG Collect, there were folks asking, does it feel like next gen has arrived? And there's a bunch of people that say no. And I'm really in the camp of those people that like, yeah, like playing games that are striving for 1080p and missing it does not make me feel next gen. Playing games that are playing at like, 20 to 24 frames per second, when I could be playing them on PC at 60 or more, like doesn't feel next gen to me, right? So, but now with the Xbox One X actually being able to push these higher resolutions, being able to push and maintain these higher frame rates, I'm stoked about that. But the only reason that I'm stoked is as a collector and as a retro gamer, I'm stoked that I can take stuff out of my back catalog and play it on today's hardware better than I could ever play it on the previous hardware. I'm stoked that the benefits of the present are being able to be applied to the past. And that's something that I think has been sorely lacking in this generation. There's been not a single player other than Microsoft. I mean, not Sony, not Nintendo. Nobody's really given a damn about backward compatibility this generation. Even Microsoft out of the gate didn't really care. And then when they were looking for ways to differentiate themselves with Sony, they decided, hey, instead of having you rent games or rebuy all these games, how about we make them available for purchase for the people that missed it? But then also, if you've already got it, bring it along for the ride. Like, why not, right? We don't need that extra $9 so much that we can't let your old disc play, right? So, I mean, maybe Sony should pay attention. But so for me, to have to reinvest in an all new game library and then to be seeing games that like, wow, looks amazing, but plays like crap. Like that's not my idea of next gen. Like I want it to look amazing and I want it to play amazing. So, and it looks like Microsoft is actually going to be the platform that's delivering that. And yes, there's PlayStation Pro, and that kind of thing. But I think Sony this generation, it's funny. Like this generation, it's like we're in like opposite land. Like Microsoft is the one giving you the Cadillac experience, right? Giving you the widest library if you count all the backward compatibility stuff. So, I mean, yes, PlayStation has more current release exclusives, but I think Microsoft digging into the back catalog is going to have, their answer to exclusives, I think, is a smart answer. We've had exclusives all throughout the history of our console. Why don't we just reintroduce some of those top tier titles now and give that to folks? So, it's really good. So, and what I think is good about it is I'm still firmly in the camp of like, don't pick PlayStation or Xbox, right? I really think that you ought to go both this generation. I'm not saying that you have to have both a Pro and a One X. Personally, I'm fine having a PlayStation 4 and a One X. I'm waiting for like a Pro 2 to come out. I want it to be smaller. I want it to be 4K HD Blu-ray compatible. I want it to give me a true 4K experience, not an upscaled 4K experience for current gen games. I'll deal with upscaled for old stuff. You got to deal with what's there. But for new stuff, there's no reason why a next gen console shouldn't be pushing native 4K, right? Because that's what you're competing with on my PC. If I'm PC gaming, I'm almost never coming down from 4K.
That's true.
I don't know, just me.
Yeah, and it's funny because as far as like exclusive games, I feel like PlayStation has kind of had the edge, at least maybe over like the past year, especially seeing titles like Nier. Oh gosh, of course I'm struggling to think of them right now, but I know in the spring this year is like you had that release of like quite a few games. I think it was like Horizon or something, Zero Dawn or whatever.
Yeah.
But you had quite a few games there that were exclusives and getting some really good praise and stuff. So I don't know, maybe this is one of those things where it's kind of Xbox's answer to that. It's also a shame that games for the PlayStation 4 tend to cost a little bit more in some instances for the PlayStation, at least as far as like the used market goes, which is kind of another detractor from going with PlayStation, at least for me. So yeah, maybe that's all in response to it. I wish we could actually talk to someone who works with the backwards compatibility, because that'd be really interesting to actually see like what the whole process is as far as like why you have to have the disc and how they go about doing all the download stuff and the files and everything. It'd be really interesting to know exactly how they do that.
Yeah, we'll see what we can work in our magic behind the scenes. We'll see if maybe we can get somebody on the show. Personally, I don't mind other than the fact I got to get up off the couch, right? Like I don't mind that you have to have the disc in there to play.
Right.
That way you don't have people just like, oh, borrow a friend's disc, pop it in, download a digital copy. Because if you haven't played this before and you don't have a copy, honestly, $9 for a digital copy is not bad. For all the stuff I said about, yes, Microsoft, like Nintendo, like Sony, is a company. I don't think that you should expect that they will forever keep the server that has the digital image of Ninja Gaiden Black up and online. I don't think that that is realistic. But at the same time, you know, for getting the game for $9, I'm willing to kind of deal with that. Getting the game for $60, I'm less, you know, per game now. I'm less willing to kind of live with that. To that note, Amadeus said about the Nintendo shop shutting down that he did hear about it and that it's quite sad. He says he has a large amount of virtual console and Wii Shop items on his Wii. I do as well. I think one thing that some folks may be able to do for at least a portion of your titles, unfortunately, this requires sinking more money in. You know, if you did have those titles on the Wii and you have a Wii U, a lot of people didn't know this, but you could transfer your Wii to the Wii U, and there's an emulation mode on it. The other reason, though, to do this is that if you have your Wii content transferred to your Wii U, and then you open the Wii U shop, it will detect that you have certain games already from the Wii shop, and it will give you a chance to upgrade those to Wii U Virtual Console titles for like $2 a title. So depending on the title, it may be worth it. I'm not necessarily recommending it because I think you're only buying yourself some time. I don't think the Wii U shop is going to have, you know, maybe if we're lucky, that'll last to like 2022, 2024, something like that. And then I think they're gonna. No, I'm serious. I think they're gonna shut that down. I think the only reason the Wii lasted this long is because it had such a huge install base. The Wii U did not have that blessing. So if it took this long for them to finally decide kill it for the Wii, I don't think they're going to need to think that hard or wait much. You know, wait as long for the Wii U. And really the biggest thing right now is we still have no clue what the hell Nintendo's going to do with regards to the virtual console on the Switch. Personally, I think they're just waiting long enough for most people to not feel hurt and directly offended that their digital content doesn't come over, and they're going to release something that makes us, hey, buy Super Mario Brothers 3 for a fourth time. You know, isn't that great? Isn't that fun? Like, come on, Nintendo, what the hell? How many copies of Mario 3 do I need to buy, right, to prove to you I love Mario 3?
Yeah.
So I got actually that brings me to pickups. So if you're, unless you have anything you want to add, Kyle.
Not really. I was joking a little bit earlier this week. I'm not sure if everyone else saw it, but Amazon has a SNES like new Nintendo 3DS, and I was joking with Chris over here that must be where all the mini SNESs went.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like it. It feels like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you pretty much said everything there, so I didn't really do any digital stuff on the Wii myself, so.
I did. There was quite a few games I had. Lit was one of them. There was Dr. Mario. One of the things I'm gonna really, really be bummed to see go. And this was a limited. This is one of those, like, not everybody knows that this even exists, much less has it. But back when they had like Club Nintendo, I had gained enough points and I cashed them in that I got. There was a mini game version of Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Well, they didn't call it Mike Tyson's Punch Out. The Nintendo Punch Out, like the Wii Punch Out game. There was a mini game version of that where you could actually fight Doc. You could actually fight the trainer. And you could only get it through Club Nintendo, only by returning points, and it was only digital. So, what really is going to break my heart is, something like that is kind of like, how many of us playing the original NES game were just like, you know what? Like, I so want to beat up my trainer. Like, look at Mac's face. Like, Mac's face looks like it was run over by a truck, right? And your trainer's best advice is dodge his punch, then counterpunch, or join the Nintendo Fun Club today, right? And you're just like, dude, I so want to beat the hell out of you right now. Like please, please. And so here's what was amazing though, right? Like, so you get this mini game now, and you can actually fight them. And you know, the animation is really good. They added voices, you know, to it and everything. And not for nothing, you know, the trainer ain't no slouch, man. He could take you to town. So it was just a really fun kind of like, you know, wow, we always wanted to be able to kind of do this, and now you can. And the way that Nintendo did it really kind of rules. Like, you'd almost wish that it was some kind of unlockable bonus or some DLC for like the digital version of Punch Out that they released on the Wii U, but neither of those is true. Like, so that's going to be one of those gems like Lit that's just going to be like when your Wii dies and you can't restore your backup on another console, you're just like,
Yeah, well, and that's a sad thing about Nintendo never doing like Game of the Year sort of editions and stuff. That have the DLC is like now the DLC and stuff is pretty much going to be gone, and the case for most every game. So
oh yeah, Smash Brothers, right? Is going to be yeah, similar boat. So Amadeus agrees. He says, yeah, it smells like a cash grab. Says that he did hear about the Punch Out one, but he cashed in his points for some really nice Zelda posters. You know what, Amadeus? Part of me is jealous, right? Part of me is jealous because had I cashed in on some posters and I took good care of said posters, I would still have the posters, and I wouldn't know about this fantastic Punch Out experience that I'm missing out on. I think what's probably going to happen, right? What's probably going to happen is I don't think I'm the only one in the world that downloaded this Punch Out game. There are probably rips of it online. You'll probably be able to play it through emulation in the future in questionably legal ways, maybe seedy ways. Who knows? So
he said he hasn't even taken those posters out of the tube. So
see, that's why I didn't go for them. I'm like, I'm gonna get the posters, and then I'm never gonna want to hang them up because of the, you know, the sun fading and all this other stuff. So I'm like, why don't I just get something? At least I can play it and enjoy the experience. But it's gonna be one of those things, right? Where like, if somebody didn't rip it and make it available through some torrent or something where people can like emulate it, it's gonna be one of those things where I'm gonna be like, hey, there used to be and people will be like, you're full of crap. Like, I'm pretty sure that's like an urban legend. Like, that's not a real thing.
Right.
You know, and you'd be like, no, I swear, like it was I got screenshots and like, that's totally photoshopped. Right.
Yeah, it would be nice to know if, like, I assume companies like have some kind of digital or physical like copies of these things that they keep as far as like game preservation and stuff.
Oh yeah. What'll probably end up happening, right? Knowing Nintendo. So fast forward 20 years from now, there will probably be a Wii Mini, right?
Hey.
That has all this stuff on there. And then, hey, you know, never before seen, you know, or not widely before seen digital content for Punch Out. You know, they'll just open up the war chest and you know, they'll produce 5 of them, and like half the world will go to war, and there'll be a big smoking crater in the side of the earth for, you know, the people fighting over those 4 consoles. So, which will be up from the 2 consoles that Nintendo previously released of their, you know, GameCube Mini.
Start hiding all your Wii games are going to go up in value from $1 to $2.
I know. Physico, hey, how are you doing? Welcome to the chat, my friend. So, in the interest of though, kind of on line of the pickups, I got some thrift pickups, but I'm not going to talk about those immediately. The CD folks, when they're on the show, kind of reminded me about the Retro, and reminded me that I really want one of these things. So I ordered one, and it arrived. And I gotta say, I was pretty impressed. I wasn't expecting it to come in a nice fancy box and everything. So, but it came in a pretty nice box. It's got a manual, which isn't in there. I apologize. But it's pretty neat. You've got the Genesis controllers there. You've got the Super Nintendo controllers there. It plugs into your PC via USB. And you plug in your cartridges here for Super Nintendo, here for Sega Genesis. So far I've ripped about half my Genesis collection, so I've ripped about 50 games. Only one of them actually dumped as like, I don't know what the hell this game is. That said, the game's still loaded and played in an emulator. So the games dump in .bin format, which I quickly learned meant I can't play them in Higgin. Folks, anybody in the chat or anybody watching the show, if you know how to get Genesis .bin games to load into Higgin, I can't even get them to show up in the import through Icarus. But I was able to play them on the Gens emulator just fine. So so I got this for less for playing my games on the emulator, although I might do that like upcoming. I might do that with my streaming setup, just play the games through emulation and stream them. It's a lot easier than hooking up the old gear and you get slightly better output. But I also got the N64 plugin, and I also got the Game Boy plugin. So this will go all the way up to Game Boy Advance. So now what's really cool is these hook in. As you notice, they look like Genesis cartridges. No, they do not work with the Retron 5. Don't try it. You will break it. But they're not built for that. They're built to be pass-throughs for the Retrode. And so you basically take the Retrode, you take the adapter, you put the game adapter in, then you put the game in, then you plug it into your computer. It loads like a storage device. So what happens is it'll just show up USB storage device, and there'll be a ROM file on that storage device named as the name of the game. You can load that up in an emulator. You can copy it. You can do whatever you want. So I got this mainly to back up a lot of my games. I do have EverDrives. I know a lot of people will say, and I'm not judging people, even though what they're doing is technically illegal. There's a lot of people that say that, hey, it's okay, just download it, etc. Here's the deal. The handful of times I have tried to download ROMs, I either find out the ROMs got pulled from the site because Nintendo asked or whatever, so now I feel like I'm like somehow a bad person because I'm even looking for them, or I find what I think is like a ROM site, but then I end up getting all these pop-ups and all this malware and all this other crap. I do not want to take a nice, clean computer that I'm using for streaming and all this other stuff and for gaming and muck it up with malware just so I can get a copy of DuckTales. I have DuckTales. I just want to dump my copy. So I know it takes extra time. I know this is costing me potentially extra money, but for the reduction in hassle, and for the assurity that what I'm getting is the ROM and not a whole bunch of crapware with the ROM, personally, I feel like it's worth it. I don't really have a burning desire to play games I don't own. And so, and as a collector, you know, I own pretty much all the games that I, you know, want to play. There's a small handful of things out there, you know, Little Samson and things like that. But even for those, I've been finding you can get repro cards really affordable. And so, you know, I've just been going that route and then dumping them. So, but yeah, something to keep in mind for folks that get this and get, say, one of these or one of these, and then don't want to read the instructions. There's a switch right here. I don't know if you can actually see it. Probably can't. But there's a switch right in here, just behind the case, that switches this guy from 5 volt to 3 volt. And by default, it's set to 5 volt. That's for Genesis and Super Nintendo games. But if you're going to play N64 games or a subset, I think it's Game Boy Advance games specifically, you need to have that switch set to 3 volt. If you have it set higher, you can erase your save games. You can break your games. So that's not their fault. They clearly tell you in the manual, change the voltage. It would be nice if they could somehow auto-detect what kind of game it was and do that auto magically. I don't know how exactly they would do that, though, given the form factor and everything. So really cool. I got the whole kit. They have the bundle, this and these 2 adapters, for, I think it was $110. Which, you know, sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, for the ability to dump all your N64 games, all your Game Boy games, all the way up to and including Game Boy Advance, and all your Genesis and SNES games, I think that's a pretty good deal. So if you're a collector and like me, you kind of want to have digital copies. Basically, what I'm going to do is keep all my games on the shelf on display, have copies of all of them, legit copies of all of them on my EverDrives, and then use my EverDrives for my actual gaming on the original hardware. Or, if I'm on the PC, I could be playing, with ROM images that I know I didn't get a whole bunch of malware on my machine by acquiring.
Just don't forget to flip that switch.
Don't forget to flip that switch. So I think it's less of a problem if you have it set in 3-volt and you try to play the other games, like Super Nintendo or Genesis. I mean, the worst thing that happens is probably it doesn't work. But yeah, you don't want to be running the higher voltage for the other stuff. So DashV, just remember, I was right about the digital purchases for Wii, and I'm gonna bring that up every time, because I mentioned it, and not anybody in the chat. I mean, everybody in the chat pretty much knows I'm preaching to the choir there. But I had friends and family members who are all like, "Oh, really? You're overthinking it, man. Don't worry about it. You got the game. You're enjoying it now." Some of these same people are people going, "Dude, you hear Nintendo shutting down their thing? That's total bullcrap. I got all these games." I'm like, dude, don't even. I don't want to hear it. They are well within their right to do that. You're an idiot. It's and they're totally blown away. They're like, aren't you supposed to be Mr. Retro and digital is bad and blah, blah, blah. It's digital isn't bad. I like digital. I love the convenience of digital. I don't like the temporariness of digital. But because I expect it to be temporary, I set my expectations. There are things that I have purchased digitally that you can only get digitally, that I've come to terms with the fact that I better enjoy it now. If I get something digital only, one of the worst things that you could do is get something that's digital only and let it sit in your backlog, honestly. Or see something that's digital only and go, man, I want to get that, add it to your wish list, and then wait and forget about it. It will get delisted, and you'll get pissed off that you didn't buy it when you had the chance, right? If you did purchase it before it got delisted, but then you move a console generation and it doesn't work on the new console, no sympathy if by the time 10 years later you decide to go back to it, it's, they shut down that store and you can't re-download it. If you're going to get something digital, make sure you get the enjoyment out of it while you can, right? Because there's no guarantee that you're ever going to see that in physical, no guarantee that it's going to be available indefinitely. So just have your expectations be according. And if you see something in physical versus digital, in some ways I'd say think about it, but in other ways it almost doesn't even matter now. You almost have to treat, for current gen, you almost have to treat everything physical like it's digital anyway, because any game that you get is going to have a ton of day one patches. So I think the latest, what was it, NBA Live or something like that, or NBA 2K or whatever. There was a game recently that came out that they had to issue a whole bunch of patches just to keep from deleting your save game.
Oh, I never heard about that.
No, it was a huge thing. It was a big mess. So there's that. Games like The Evil Within, right? Having to get multiple patches. Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Night Trap. There's a handful of games that had a slew of patches. And so I have to say, good on the developers for getting patches out there to address people's issues early and everything. So yes, kudos on that. And I understand that the developers themselves, I'm not really blaming them. I understand you probably had a project timeline that was totally unreasonable. You probably had a company that ship it, quality be damned, we can patch it after. It's just more important to hit that retail date and get the game on the shelf. And I get that you didn't have a say in that. But at the same time, as a gamer, right, I'm not fooling myself. This gen's physical games are not going to work on, 20 years from now on a clean console the way that they work today with all the patches applied. Some of the games will be downright unplayable. Some of them will literally be completely broken out of box.
Well, because I had gotten Fallout 4, and as I've told you, Chris, when because I had a Chinese PlayStation, it's got a console ban for reasons and stuff on that. So I ran into a glitch on on one of the main missions, and then I realized like I don't think I could go any farther because I couldn't update the game.
Oh.
So I was like, so now I'm gonna have to either buy a new PlayStation or buy it on another console if I actually want to finish the main storyline. Now,
Yeah.
maybe that wasn't a big glitch. Maybe it's just something I ran into. But I mean, yeah, there are games out there that definitely, without those patches, won't be so good. Now,
My
that
goodness.
being said, maybe it's one of those things where they're going to be digital versions, and those digital versions will be the updated ones, and maybe it won't matter all that much. But I mean, I guess it would for the physical games at least.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm feeling encouraged by, there's a couple things that Microsoft has said that has me encouraged about the longevity of games on their platform, be they digital or physical. One of them is what they're already doing, which is bringing back games as old as this, right? But then the other thing that kind of gives me hope is that Nintendo, at least in their current marketing and their current positioning, they keep talking about how it's their belief that the console cycle, like generations of consoles, are done. At least as far as Microsoft is concerned, going forward, they're saying they don't believe in any such thing as console generations. They believe in smooth transitions and increases in capability, with the library kind of coming along for the ride. Now, whether that means infinite compatibility into the backlog, I don't know. But they've been basically hinting at how like Xbox One S was like a micro upgrade to the Xbox One. Your games will play better on the One S than they played on the One. Versus, X is like a quantum leap. Like they'll play much better on that than they play on the S or the launch model. There will be, the vibe that I'm getting is, while Sony's talking about PlayStation 5, which if we look at PlayStation 4 is any indicator and PlayStation 3 is any indicator, PlayStation 5 to me says, yippee, you're going to introduce true 4K and I'm going to be at ground zero with my gaming library again. And you're talking about doing this in the next 2 to 3 years. Wow. Like, way to take the wind out of the sails for me, like investing in the platform, right? Versus, Microsoft is kind of like, something will succeed the X. That thing that succeeds the X will play games that the X plays, and it will play games that the S plays. So that really actually makes me go, you know what? I'm not really going to think too much harder about if I make that digital purchase now on the Microsoft Store or I do it on the Sony Store, especially because if it's a Play Anywhere title, I get it on the PC as well as on the Xbox. Plus, you're giving me some assurances. Now, granted, I have to listen to my own advice, right, Chris? Remember, Microsoft at any point could pull these and say like, "Oh, we was just playing," right? That turns out there's no money in that. So, but at least it looks like, from everything that they're currently doing now, if I read the tea leaves, it looks like they're really making an effort to not just talk the talk, but to walk the walk, right? And bringing games back, from the very first console generation, making sure that they are an enhanced experience on, regardless of the platform. That even if you're playing it on the launch model Xbox, it's going to be better than the original Xbox, better than the 360. You play it on the One S, it'll be a little bit better. You play it on the One X, it'll be amazingly better. And then hinting that anything after the One X is going to play all your old stuff. I think that that's fantastic. So versus Sony is not, Sony has stated repeatedly, why do you want to buy a new console to play old games? Like, there's many ways to say we don't give a shit about your previous investment. That's one of them, folks. That's a really classy way to say we don't care what you've invested in our existing platform or in our previous generation's platform. We're so glad that you're like the biggest fan ever, but guess what? Start from scratch being the biggest fan ever on the next generation. And I just don't know how long, right? I mean, people eventually got sick of doing the same thing with their PCs. Most people. I mean, if you look at it, for a while, everybody had a PC. Everybody's getting bigger, better PC, bigger, better PC. And then suddenly, like, we found out, oh, wait, I could do half that crap on my phone. Right? Like, I don't need it. Well, it used to be, I don't need to spend $1,000 to check my email. now now we are back to, yes, if you want to. Now you too. This isn't an iPhone X or anything like that, but that is what I'm referring to, right? The iPhone X, right? Like now we're back to,
Mhm.
for $1,000, you too can check your email, but we're not doing it on our PC. In fact, the PC market, other than enthusiast gaming, the PC market's been in the crapper for many, many years. So I have a feeling that if Sony's not careful, right, they're going to experience the same thing where people are just like, look, I'm tired of starting from scratch every single time. Like it's just not worth it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like I've mentioned before, if I want to play any PS3 games, I have to bust out the PS3, and I don't really want to have like 5 different consoles hooked up at a time. That is one nice thing about having the Xbox. There's some backwards compatible stuff where if I want to play something and it is, I'd be like, oh, well, I guess I can go out and buy that, and I don't have to hook up my other console just to do it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And like you mentioned, offering games digitally, I'm not sure how profitable a lot of this stuff is for Microsoft. I mean, I've heard that they've
They
kind of been.
claim that there was over 700,000 hours spent this year playing backward compatible titles.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, it ain't zero, right?
Yeah.
Now whether or not like 6,999 of those hours were playing Halo, while nobody touched any of the other, we don't know. But I mean,
Yeah, it would
but
be.
still,
It'd be interesting to have a little more information on how exactly like they plan to make that profitable.
yeah.
Which actually there's. Well, I don't want to totally change subject and stuff. A few interesting things
No, go
speaking of
ahead.
profit.
Go
But,
ahead.
well, there is
on your mind?
I'm not sure if anyone else had seen it. I think it was a relatively new video, but Jim Sterling that does the Jimquisition stuff, he was talking about, I think it's Activision. It had a patent or something like that for a system they were developing where so basically they're going to use like multiplayer matchmaking and adjust that to one thing they could do, for example, would be to like sell you DLC. So affecting the matchmaking, so like it matches you up with someone who has bought some DLC and purposely, maybe if you're a lower level skilled player, matching up with higher skilled players that have that DLC in particular. That way you get killed a lot by them, for instance, and then they're like, oh, I have to have that gun. And then like you go buy the DLC or whatever. There's an interesting video on that. And then there's also another system. So I'm trying to remember what they called it, but basically using analytics in I think specifically it was more like handheld games and like mobile games and things like that to sell people the same like DLC content, but everyone's going to get it at a different price. So it'll evaluate your gaming habits. So like if you have someone over here and you can see this is a phone they have and they've bought like this and this DLC before and this is how many hours they've played, well, they're more likely to buy this, let's say $2.50 DLC for $5. So they'll market that to them for $5. Then you have someone over here who maybe just plays it more casually, doesn't really buy a lot of stuff. They may sell that to them for $2.50. And it's the same content. So some now I'm not saying I'm getting all the facts on that right, but some interesting videos. So if you guys have time, I would definitely check those out because I know, especially with I think it's Shadow of Mordor and Battlefront 2 and stuff, this DLC is definitely coming to the forefront in terms of like loot boxes and all that. But those two things were very interesting. And something that we may end up seeing being implemented if people don't really start speaking out against it or just not supporting the games that are trying to use it. So it'll be interesting because I definitely don't want to pay $40 for some DLC that Chris is going to pay $20 for. So
I can definitely tell you guys. Let me see. On one hand, I can count the number of DLCs I'm willing to pay $20 for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no, I don't know. Homie don't play that.
Right. Well, and that wouldn't affect me much either because I don't really buy DLC unless it's like
Yeah.
the Game of the Year versions or something. But
That's what I generally try to do. Yeah, I try to buy the collections. I try to buy like when they finally Game of the Year edition, that kind of thing.
right, right. So I mean, hopefully that kind of stuff doesn't get implemented. But like I
Yeah.
said, Activision, I guess they already have patents on this stuff and everything. So get ready to see your multiplayer experience possibly changed for the worse, so they can try to sell you products and etc. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. For me personally, like any game, like, and I'm sure I'm in the minority on this, but like any game that's like I always like question free, like especially with PlayStation Plus. Like what I really don't like is when PlayStation Plus is like, oh, here's this month's free game, and I'm like, you POS, like
It's not free.
that's a free to play game. Like it was free anyway, right? Like yes, if I want to go in with like a pea shooter, right, and like tinfoil armor and get my ass handed to me for like 6 hours, yeah, the game is free. But yeah, I don't anything that's like pay to play. I don't really like anything that requires not necessarily pay to play, but like because there's okay, buy this, buy this gun, buy this armor, buy this whatever, and then you can basically like stomp people. But or there's games that are more like Destiny, right, where you go in and you basically loot grind, right, and the longer that you've played it, the more the more you could kind of loot grind. But if you want to get further in the story, you got to buy the DLC, right, kind of thing. And I know, okay, to a certain extent, right, one could argue playing the Resident Evil series. It's a franchise, so sure, if you want to get the whole entire story, right, of the whole entire lore, you got to get every game. Isn't that the same thing? No, it really isn't. Like, there's a difference I feel between getting a complete self-contained game that happens to have hooks or lead-ins or lead-outs from other material that kind of bookends it. But as far as it's concerned, it's a complete story. It's a complete campaign, right? You've got like double-digit hours of content in there to keep you kind of like satisfied. There's a difference between that and here's a bundle of here's some additional maps. Here's like one or two additional pieces of story. I'll call out some games that did this that I'm not happy that they did it. It's a good game. I played it anyway, but I waited till after when I could get it all together. Alan Wake did this, right? If you play Alan Wake, the first game, and you get to the end, like literally the ending is like, dude, what the hell? Like seriously, what the hell? Like what that's it, right? And so I can see people that never played. There's two DLCs for that, the Writer and the Signal. And I could see people that never played the Writer or the Signal like still waiting, yearning for a sequel. Because it amazes me like there how many people there are out there that are like still like, I gotta know what happens. Like I gotta know what happens, like please make a sequel. And it's like, stop, like there was a DLC that got you it gave you I think like 4 to 6 hours of extra gameplay, and then at the end of that you're like, oh wait, what the hell? No, that's you just dropped me in a worse place than where you dropped me before I got the DLC, right? And then you get the next DLC and you're like, again, like, wait, what the hell, right? Like um they just kept cliffhangering you. And then when you get Alan Wake's American Nightmare, which was like a whole like separate DLC thing, Alan Wake's American Nightmare actually does finally like bring things to a conclusion where it's more of like a Resident Evil style ending, right? So to me, the entire Alan Wake game, the entire experience, um, if you really think about it properly, it is Alan Wake, it is the Writer and the Signal, and it is Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Those collectively close out the storyline of Alan Wake in an acceptable way. It's still not closed in the sense of like you could never make another one, but it's closed in the sense that you're not going like, dude, what the hell? Like you're like, okay, this is the end of a particular arc, right? And so I don't like the fact that that's split up among. Now, if you actually, if I don't think you can buy it anymore. I think it got delisted. But for a while, when it was back, Alan Wake, and you could buy it in digital for the Xbox One. Um, it was the whole bundle. They gave you Alan Wake plus the writer and the signal, and then the only thing that you needed to then decide is if you wanted American Nightmare. But yeah, I don't like this whole like DLC thing to kind of like complete the story, complete the experience. I think that that's really crappy. I think it's, as Amadeus said earlier, I think that's like cash grabby type thing. And Nintendo even is guilty of this with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It pisses me off that the only way to get an unbreakable weapon is through a DLC dungeon, right? Like, why does the Master Sword break in the base out of the box game? What the hell, Nintendo? Like, why? Like, it's supposed to be the ultimate sword, and like I can hit an orc like 10 times with it, and then it's broken for like 30 minutes. What? Unless I buy like a $15 or $20 DLC and then go through this trail. I don't mind that they have this whole like go to this temple, go through this trail of tears of trying to like beat, basically like, enemy and boss run, for like 40 different stages. It's going to take you like 3 hours and you have to be flawless to do it. And then it unlocks the full true power of the Master Sword, which basically just means the damn thing doesn't break anymore. But I really hate the fact that in order for that to be at all a possibility, it's not part of the base game. Like, that's total bullshit. Like, you shouldn't, like, it wasn't fair to gamers that they did it that way. The DLC that's coming out in a couple more months, I'm looking forward to. Like, I don't mind that there's like side stories for all the different people that pilot the different what do they call them there? Do you remember, Kyle? What do they call those? Breath of the Wild, the Guardians. Is that what they call them? The Guardians, the big giant.
I still haven't played it, so I really don't know.
There's these big giant creatures. There's like 4 or 5 of these big giant creatures, and there's different heroes that can kind of pilot the creatures and all this other stuff. But anyway, like I don't mind that those heroes of those creatures, right? Like that they have a separate side quest style story that's going to come as DLC. That's totally fine. Like if you want to take something that like I beat Breath of the Wild and I didn't really feel like I needed deeper story for those side characters. I didn't feel like I needed a side quest with everything that was already there. So for Nintendo to come out later with an optional DLC to say like, hey, if you want to kind of see what's going on and you're curious, we got like, 12 more hours or 20 more hours of content here for these other side characters. That's totally fine. I'm 100% for that. What I'm not for is the whole like, hey, the biggest complaint that you have in the game, which is that basically every friggin' weapon is made of tinfoil, including the Master Sword, which is supposed to be like the most powerful weapon of all time in the game. Like, yeah, buy this like $15 DLC and then, fight through this special dungeon and it fixes that problem. Like,
well, and I don't know.
Really? It hurts me. It irks me.
Because I mean, I know the dungeon stuff is kind of traditionally something they've done, I guess, since like maybe the GameCube games where they have a new edition with that on it. So I don't know if they, I mean, I guess it's possible they could have done that with Master Sword because they knew they were going to make the DLC. And so they didn't want people going through the DLC with that unbreakable weapon. Maybe that's, I don't know. Otherwise, I'm not sure if there was even like a philosophical reason why they did that, or
I think honestly it was the real meaty DLC is not coming out till fall, but nobody's gonna want to buy it. Like if the first DLC is just a shirt and a couple of stakes and like some meaningless side quests, right? Which is really like everything that's not the Trial of the Master Sword is really a meaningless side quest. There's not really, you don't really get anything substantial out of doing the other things. Like a piece of armor and a shield and nothing like really like, because it's going to break. As soon as you use it, it's going to break. So you're like, well, what the hell? That's not really, I don't care that I have this one rare thing that's the only one you can get in the game because it's going to break in the first damn battle and then it's done. I can't use it anymore. So I really feel like the only real pull, right, the only real hook for the first DLC was you tire your stuff breaking, the Master Sword won't break if you buy this DLC. Right? Buy this DLC and beat the quest and the DLC, and then the Master Sword won't break anymore. But the quest by itself, as you know, you kind of mentioned, I don't think it was like that quest will be too easy for people if the Master Sword wasn't breakable. I think it's that no one would care about that quest unless there was like a really valuable prize at the end of it. And it just irks me that the most valuable prize they could think of was like, fix what's a major complaint that people are going to have with the game. Make that the prize, right? Like all the way up to that point in the retail game, every single weapon was breakable. And now guess what, right? Like if you really want the Master Sword to be the ultimate weapon that you expected it to be, because I remember the first time, like I get the Master Sword, I'm like, yeah. And I'm like going through and I'm like, you know, I beat the crap out of like 3 orcs. And then it's like, the Master Sword has run out of energy. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like literally, like I had like a what the hell, like I put down the game and I'm like, the Master Sword can break? What the hell? And I was just totally like, I was just completely like let down by it. So yeah. But anyway, so that was that. So but I do have to hand it to Nintendo. None of the DLCs are really what I would consider to be like mission critical parts of the story, right? Like I didn't get to the end and beat the game and feel like I got robbed of like story and robbed of like whatever. When I did beat Alan Wake, I was super happy that I got it as I got both Alan Wake and Alan Wake's American Nightmare and all the DLC as pre-order bonuses for Quantum Break. So as pre-order bonuses, hell of a deal, awesome deal. But I do remember when I beat Alan Wake before the DLCs, I'm like, oh my god, I basically had to start the DLC immediately. And then I beat that DLC, and then I was like, the whole week, I beat it, and I wasn't able to jump immediately into the next DLC. And the whole week, I'm just like, I got to play the next DLC. I got to play the next DLC. So from a marketing perspective, yes, totally, you know, probably would have worked. But at the same time, it would have soured me on other games. I would have been like, I'm going to finish this game, finish out the storyline, and then F you guys for anything else. Because I don't want you to like hook me and then I'm paying all this money for like season passes on crap and stuff like that. So, I mean, if I know ahead of time, you know, like a good example of this is, you know, I did buy, I pre-ordered even Before the Storm, Life is Strange Before the Storm. And but that said, I know that they're not planning on having it to be like 64 episodes. They've already said, look, it's going to be 3 episodes plus if you pre-ordered a bonus episode with Max. And that's it. Then we're done. So in that case, I don't mind getting a season pass because I know, like, okay, I'm agreeing to pay a price to get the entire story. What I don't like is I don't like plunking down $50 for a game to find out you want the next chunk of story, that's going to be $10. You want the next chunk of story, that's going to be $15. Like, I don't want to find that out after the fact that I didn't get a complete game when I thought what I was getting was a complete game. And so I did get that feel with Breath of the Wild because of the sword. I didn't get it because of the storyline, so I'll let it slide. Yeah, but like I'm going to be looking out for this with Mario Odyssey, right? I'm hoping Mario Odyssey is an incomplete game.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to have some DLC for that puppy. New planet or something.
as long as it's not like, you know, critical to the, you know.
Right.
You know, like you go through the entire, like what I don't want to see is, and this is why I kind of felt like in Breath of the Wild, this is what they did to me, right? Like there were so many situations in which having that Master Sword be like truly as effective as you would expect it to be out of box would have made certain parts of the game much more enjoyable. Like, for example, it was a nightmare getting to Ganon with any weapons still left whatsoever. Like literally, I got like every Korok seed I could possibly find. I packed all the weapons, all the shields that I could possibly get, and then I went all the way through the castle, and because I wanted to explore the whole map. Right, so I'm not just like taking shortest line to Ganon. I'm literally trying to like uncover every single spot on the map and get almost 100% coverage of the map and everything. And it was just so brutally difficult to do it because like by the end, like I'm getting to Ganon and I I literally have a stick. I'm not kidding you, like a stick from a tree, and the Master Sword that's charging, right? And I'm like, I'm literally just standing there at the door because I'm not going to cross the threshold and trigger the fight with Ganon, fighting him with the goddamn stick, right? Like, I'm going to fight the master of all evil in Hyrule with a friggin' twig. Not happening. So I stand there for like 15 minutes just waiting for the Master Sword to have enough energy again so I can cross the threshold and hopefully have enough energy in the sword to take out Ganon. That was not my idea of a fun time. So,
yeah.
And then after that, I get this DLC and find out, oh, by unlock the true power of the Master Sword, you mean the damn thing will never break again. Thanks a lot. I could have used that for, like, the rest of the, you know what I mean? The rest of the thing. So if through Mario Galaxy, you're going through levels and you're seeing, like, areas that you can't quite get to, and you're seeing, like, all this stuff, and it takes, like, you in wildly different directions with the story or whatever, and then in the end I find out, oh, you can only get there if you get this power-up that's part of this DLC purchase, I'm going to be pissed off.
We'll see.
Don't spend the game teasing me for DLC. Like, don't do that. Right? Don't make the game just be this extended trailer for DLC.
We'll see.
That will make me rage. You could shut down your store. That's fine. Just don't make the game an extended trailer for DLC.
Yeah, hopefully not. But I don't know. Hopefully not.
So, Phaser Co., we did notice in the chats there, we did notice that you said that you're going to be switching to daylight savings time, so you're not going to be able to catch us on the show. That's a bummer. You're not going to be able to catch us live and in the chat, and that's fine, although we will miss you. But just keep in mind that you can still catch us on your Roku, and you can still catch us anytime on the YouTubes. It doesn't have to be when we're live, my friend. We'll still bring you the goods, and remember that if you do want to interact with us or influence the direction of the show, whether this is Phaser Co. or anybody, remember that you can drop us a comment on our Facebook. You could drop us a comment on Twitter. You could drop us a comment, on these videos themselves. We do go through and we do review the comments, and it does influence, influence the direction of the show. There's been a couple of things, like the Jaguar episode. We had a couple of episodes back that was totally based on fan demand. We had like 3 or 4 people say, hey, give the Jaguar some love, and we did. So I don't know that we're going to be able to drum up interest in a Commodore 64 Mini, but we'll see. They're talking about that. Any interest in a C64 Mini? Trying to whip up a hype train for that. And then they're talking about like an Amiga Mini. It's like out of control in the chats. Out of control.
If it's mini, it's got to actually have like a miniature mouse that you can barely use and like a little tiny keyboard.
Oh man, I got to tell you really quick. I know we're over time, but like, I had some really interesting pickups this week at the thrift store. So I got
Was it just those 3 things, or did you get more than?
It was just those 3 things. I posted them on the. I think I posted them on the Facebook page, so some of you folks might have already seen it, but I got one of the Whopper controllers there. So I got this for $4. I thought that was a really good deal, especially because I've got at least one controller where I damaged the plug. So for me, it was $4 just to have the extra plug was good enough, even if the controller itself doesn't work. But that controller's in like, I don't know if it showed up well on camera, but the controller's practically new. Like, it's not even dirty. Like you'd normally have, like, you know what I mean, like gamer grime on there. There's no gamer grime. They had an Xbox One game there that didn't suck. This really surprised me. Watch Dogs was there for the Xbox One. And they actually had a copy. So right next to Watch Dogs was a copy of that NBA game I was telling you about that had the game-breaking bug. It was like sitting right next to it. So,
oh my gosh.
And there's a copy of FIFA. So there's that NBA game, there's a copy of FIFA, and there was Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs was the only one I left with. I picked this up for $6.
Oh, that's good.
So, and it sounds really interesting. It says, hacking is your weapon. Play as Aiden Pierce, a brilliant hacker whose criminal past led to a violent family tragedy. Access omnipresent security cameras, download personal information to locate a target, control traffic lights and public transportation, and more. So
I hope you're ready for a gravelly voiced, stone cold, um, emotionally hurt protagonist in this game, because that's what you'll get.
Nice. So I wonder if so is this is it like Infamous then?
I only played a little bit. It's like GTA Light, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know. This you'll see. I don't know. I didn't play very much of it.
Didn't play very much of it.
No, just a little bit.
For $6, I have to say my
For $6.
expectations are set incredibly low.
I
One
think
thing
it
I
should be
was
fine.
impressed by, but I'll let you know if after I play it I'm still impressed. I was impressed by the fact that when I popped this into my Xbox One, it only downloaded one patch and it was 160 meg.
Hey.
So there's pretty close to a complete game on here.
Man, that's
right?
so last gen. Ugh.
I know it's very last gen. I popped in what game was it? It was just this week. I popped in a game, and I shit you not, like I pop in the game and it says, "We need to download 23 gig of update." I'm like, 23 gig?
That's not bad.
It's basically like the entire game is like a do-over at that point, right? It's like,
right.
I'm like, holy crap, 23 gig update for a game. It wasn't this game. I don't remember what game it was.
Probably just about any game now.
Oh, it could be. It could be. And to its credit, it might have been like 4K assets or something like that for the upcoming One X or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
well, that's how like Battlefield 1 and everything is, like 20 gigs. No big deal.
So Amadeus, take it easy. Thanks for being with us. So the last thing, and this one had me really excited. I found it is the green color. It's not the original gray, but it was in such good shape that until I took it out of the plastic, I was like bracing myself for it to be like an aftermarket, like 3D printed case. You know, like it didn't, like literally there's not a scratch on this thing.
Yeah.
There's not a scratch on the screen. The buttons aren't worn. I mean, this is in like practically, you know, I can't say mint, but this is in pretty good condition. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, this is a little bit scuffed up and everything, but that's made of paper. Now, the only bummer though is sad face. When you turn it on, let me see here. Let me give the so there's a couple of issues. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I'm getting some reflection. Is it like the sound, but not really any screen there?
So a couple of things. That you can kind of see right now. Even though it's still getting power, the screen turned off. So there are lines through the screen, which I may or may not be able to fix. And while it has power, the screen goes. The screen and the sound goes out. So I think that's probably just a capacitor or a set of capacitors. So maybe I have to replace the capacitors. But I'm not sure if the lines in the screen are something that is, if that's something that's actually repairable. So yeah, I might have to find guts of another Game Boy and rebuild this. But the shell of it is in pretty amazing condition. So
I think the lines on the screen, I'm pretty sure those are repairable. I know there's like some videos out there. You can definitely look for the most common problems, because there's like, I was watching one on a guy just got a bunch of broken ones, and just you can go through and test them and fix them. So I think that should be fixable.
Yeah, we'll see. I was pretty bummed because in spite of the lines, I mean, all the pixels show up. It's just a question of like how intense they show up.
Right.
So it seems like from all the rest of the hardware, everything else is intact. As long as I'm going to be ripping the thing open, I might actually try to experiment with installing a backlight and things like that. These look pretty good with there's backlights and polarizing mods on these that actually really clean up the graphics quite well. So I was taking a look at maybe doing something like that. I have an existing Game Boy here that is an old gray Game Boy, but like the screen fell out, and that one has seen better days. So that was the one I actually had when I was a kid, and I took it all around the U.S. You know,
Oh,
I think
that's
at one point I dropped it down the Grand Canyon. I'm not joking. Um, I took it with me to the Grand Canyon, and I dropped it somewhere and had to like recover it and all this
I
other
don't know, man.
stuff. So
There's just something about the feel of a Game Boy. It just
there really is. I mean, this is still totally playable. Like in my opinion,
it's
like
just chunky and beefy, but it's still beautiful.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And Kirby, right? Kirby still sounds and looks amazing on this thing. So, um, so yeah. So those were my pickups. You could still find some stuff. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to find. I mean, this is a pretty common find actually at the thrift store, so this didn't surprise me too much. Although the condition of it, like being like practically brand new, surprised me. This guy, actually in the amazing condition that it's in, I did not expect. And in fact, you look at the back, you look at the text. You can't really see too well on the camera, but normally on a device of this age, you have like the gamer grime and stuff and dirt like
Yeah,
embedded in the back between the letters and everything. There's none of that. I mean, it's really like I couldn't get it that clean unless I took a toothbrush to it, but I didn't have to. Like it's literally that clean out of box. And then the battery compartment in this thing is immaculate as well. So there was no like exploded
nice,
batteries or anything.
nice.
So the only bummer though is that the hardware inside has shown its age.
Mm.
So
Well,
we'll have to see if I can get that guy back up and going.
yeah, I think those are relatively easy. I mean, especially for someone like you who like works with stuff, I think that'd be pretty easy fix. So
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
definitely let us know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll keep you folks up to date. So, what did you think of today's show? What do you think about my thoughts on Microsoft in particular? I think that in 2018, they're definitely going to be a friggin' force to be reckoned with. I think they're going to have an awesome backward compatible lineup. Just super quick. I'm not going to give any commentary. I'm just going to show because I said I'd give my wish list. Games that I'd like to see: Burnout 3 Takedown.
Mm.
I'd love to see this come back. I think that's a long shot because of all the music licensing. Burnout Revenge, same reason. I think with the music licensing, it's going to be a no-go. This one might actually be possible. I say might be because I didn't expect a Star Wars game was going to be possible, and yet we got one. So if we could get Simpsons Hit and Run, this is like a GTA Lite. Also, this is GTA with the Simpsons, and it's absolutely a riot. It's got the original voice cast. It's amazing. Sonic Mega Collection Plus, this would be really, really cool to have bring back. Soul Calibur 2 would be really, really great. This had Spawn as an exclusive playable character for the Xbox version. So that would be pretty neat. Silent Hill 2 would be a really awesome, awesome game to have on there. And then this is another one that was actually an Xbox exclusive, Oddworld.
Mm.
So, I would love to see any or all of those games make it into the Xbox, One backward compatibility. I have a feeling at least one of those games is going to make it, but
Yeah,
I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much.
definitely some good ones. Hopefully, Metal Arms glitch in the system would make it in there. That's a really good one too.
Oh, that would be pretty sweet. Yeah. So, folks, are there games that you remember from Xbox One or Xbox original generation that you would like to see come back in the backward compatibility? Let us know, and we'll mention that next show. So, in the meantime, Jeremy, he is out. This isn't complications from the Reaper chip that he ate last episode. I just want to make that clear. He did have to bail early because he got like horribly sick from that chip. He just couldn't handle the heat. Sorry, Jeremy, I got to tell it like it is. But he is okay. He is fine. He is well. But it's over 100 degrees in
Yeah,
LA right now.
that's crazy because it's starting to get pretty cold
Insane.
here. I'm wearing my sweater, so
Yeah, he was not able to stream because he it was just too hot in the apartment. So hopefully we'll see him next week. In the meantime, send him some love, right? So
yeah.
he did not die from the heat, at least not from the heat of the chip. But although I don't know, maybe he got like more chips and that's why it's 100 degrees in his apartment. I don't know. I don't know. So Lister, I did not get to SteamWorld Dig yet, but trust me, when I do, I will drop you a message and you will know first and foremost. So it is on the list. So folks, this has been Retro Reload. We are beyond time. Love us, hate us. It's okay, just rate us. So we will catch you next week.